Hello and welcome back to another episode of One Kick from Glory. As usual, I'm joined on my right-hand side by Matthew.
Hello there.
And right in front of me, I'm joined by Craig.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to recap the results from last week's Premier League games. Of course, we've got some exciting games going on today. I'm not going to talk too much about those. We lost again, but we'll get into that more in our next episode. But for today, we're going to start off on the game that we ended last week's podcast with. Of course, it was the derby. I am in an Arsenal shirt. It's the blue one because I feel like London feels very blue and I feel very blue. Matthew, Over to you. The Blues turned up, put on a show. Lukaku came. How did you feel looking back on the game?
The duck has been broken. I was wary of this game because I'm well aware of the last few times we should have won and we didn't. So I was wary, but once I saw the game and the play and the goals and just capping up the whole game, it was a comfortable performance in the end. What we thought would happen with Lukaku. He came on, scored a fantastic goal, had a great game, absolutely bullied the defense. It's like Drogba. It's like Drogba-esque performance coming to the Emirates and just making it his own, really. And again, after that, we could have scored more, but I just felt like we were in a very steady gear. We defended really, really well. I would have liked to see more goals, probably, but that's probably been spoiled after all. I was just really happy to see a win, a fantastic performance, so many standouts, not just Lukaku. I thought Mason Mount was great. Reece James got his goal and set up for Lukaku as well. Havertz did well. Kante coming in. I mean, Kante came in. He wasn't even playing. Who else? I mean, again, the defense, like your Rudiger's AC Penitentiary. If you don't know about that can look on Twitter. It's there, people. But yeah, I just thought it was an excellent performance because I know Arsenal are where they are is one thing. It's still Arsenal, so you never know what he could come out with. So I was very pleased, very happy from last week's performance and result, and let's see if we can get that continue out for the rest of the season. So it's 3 games in. So let's keep that going, boys. Come on, Chelsea.
And for you, Craig, I guess looking back at the game, considering how this same match last season was a very different outcome for us and the performance last year was a lot better, what was your immediate thoughts on watching the game?
It's the same typical, we haven't learned from our mistakes in previous matches. Like the midfield, when they played the through ball to Lukaku and he spun Pablo Mari should have been more streetwise and know how to they don't give him too much space, give him enough space for him to turn him, and when the ball came into the box, he could have had a sandwich and still could have scored. He could have scored with his eyes closed. It was that easy for him, and I felt same old performance again in the big games. We were doing well before in the big games, but I don't know what's happened. We've gone backwards.
Yeah, I think it was one of those games where I was just very disappointed at the poor preparation. It felt like the players didn't really have a clear plan as to what they wanted to do. It felt like even in-game management, there wasn't a lot of kind of awareness of what was happening. Like players just were almost playing how they expected things to happen. Like Lukaku's Lukaku's goal, just to break that whole movement down, the ball comes into him, great layoff, great spin and turn, and goes out wide. And he just had way more desire than Pablo Mari to get into the dangerous area. Now, Mari thought he could try and out-muscle him. And the way he goes down, it was like watching a fish flopping out of sea. It was pathetic. But putting that to one side, Lukaku just showed there and then that what it takes to make it, not just in the league, but to be one of the top strikers in the world and in world football. And for you, Matthew, having him back, I know last week we were talking about this deal, if it will get done and stuff, and obviously it was done by the time we'd recorded. How these things work out is always the case. But the exciting thing for you is you now have that final piece of the jigsaw. So what was it like just watching him back in blue, looking like he never left, and just playing so well?
He looks better than ever. He really, really does. I'm not saying that fact that he's come back to Chelsea and we've spent a lot of money on him. It's still an investment. It's only been 2 games, but he put in for first game back after how many years from being away from Chelsea and then away from the Premier League from his time at Manchester United. I think he did quite well there, but I think over time that spell in Italy has helped him out really, really well. He's played under a very experienced manager and a winning manager in Conte. He has some good players around him with his team, the likes of Ericsson, and I think Alexis Sanchez was there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's played around people who can and help him and feed off and be like, I'm excited having these players around me. I've got almost proven winners and great professionals around me. So it's kind of helping build up in his game. He looks stronger. He feels hungrier. His desire, again, like you said, just spinning around Mari. He probably still spinning as we speak. Reminiscent of same team again when Hazard span Coquelin. Maybe I hope he stops spinning now. But it just shows you that energy and just he's come back. He wants to make a good impression on his way back to Chelsea in this massive project we have pushing for what I think is for the league. I think the one we've done the Champions League, which I think is a fantastic achievement. No one would have thought we would have won it, even I didn't. But now we've pushed on. I think the next one is that league. It'll be five years now that we haven't won it, and he is. I think don't let his age bother you too much, because there are older strikers out there who are still doing the business, and I know we could go on something else with a slightly older person who is in demand. So shows that age clearly is the number. But I just think it feels and it looks as if we're probably going to be getting the best version of Lukaku at this current moment. His confidence just flying through, and just how bullish he was after the game, giving post-match interviews. I'm like, he's saying exactly all the things I want to hear, and from the first game on the pitch, doing it as well. So this could be integral to our title push. Very, very integral. I'm so happy to see him back. This is probably what we were promised when he first arrived. So, better late than never, Better late than never. So, very happy from what I saw in the first game. Very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with his performance. I think for me, the standout thing isn't so much the goals, it's the fact that he left Chelsea young man, kind of, very confident, but still a bit rough around the edges. Went to Everton and really refined his game a lot and developed that kind of pin spin move, which has now become his trademark. Went to Manchester United and didn't quite work out for him. I still think he did well, but I think not the extent that they would have wanted, or even he would have wanted. Went to Italy. They diagnosed his that whole medical issue he had, which was affecting his diet, which was making him put on extra weight he didn't need to. They sorted that, and immediately he was leaner, meaner, but most importantly, refined. And I think he's gone from being a promising striker to a complete striker, because he can do it. He can do a lot of stuff, but the best thing about him is watching him play. He knows what his strengths and weaknesses are. It's like, okay, he can do the hold-up play. He can run in behind. He can work the channels, but he's not going to do that too much because he's more effective staying central. But what I love is that you have a striker who can do everything Werner tried to do, everything Giroud did when his hair was looking good, but yet be consistent throughout the season. And so focusing on all those qualities, Craig, I think looking at how well he performed, what would you say is like, especially for like younger people looking at a striker, what would you say are those qualities that Lukaku possessed in this match that you think those are things you should literally take a notebook out, write down, go on YouTube and rewatch the clips over and over again?
Number one, leadership. He learned a lot playing in Italy. He refined his game. He was in the game. I could see that he was helping the younger players in the game. He was pointing where he wanted the ball, and after his post-match interview, he was basically bigging up his teammates for them supplying him the balls. And obviously, it's working in progress. Transition off the ball. Every time he lost the ball, he was making sure everything was okay. And he didn't. And one thing I'll say to any young player, like, always work on your game. Even if you're an established player, always work on your game. There's always areas in your game you can improve on. And as a player, when he signed Chelsea recently, he spoke to Didier. I heard the interview. He spoke to Didier Drogba, and Drogba gave him the seal of approval and told him what he needs to work on, and he respected learning from him because he looks up to Drogba as his idol. So he learned a lot from Didier Drogba.
Wow. And I think that's great advice to give. I think what's interesting with this game is obviously there's always two teams involved. Well, 1.5. And we could talk a lot about Arsenal's woes and gosh, we could spend hours talking about Arsenal's woes and what they could do right and what they do wrong. I think ultimately what you have is a team that seem unable to improvise anymore and unable to follow the plans to a T. And when things go wrong, you just capitulate. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's probably the biggest issue with Arsenal. It's not just the fact that we have an ownership which it's not like they don't invest money, but they don't. It's like the deals we do aren't enough to move the needle to take us where we want to be. That's the biggest problem. And then on top of that, you got a manager who has all the ideas in the world, but it's not working. It's like it just don't make sense. Like it just doesn't make sense. If you're doing something over and over again, it's not working. Change it up. Have an honest chat with the players. Find out what works best for them. Play to their strengths. I know you want to play your football, but it's not working right now. So just scrap it and just get back to basics and redo the things that matters most. But the sad thing for us as fans is like, what do we get behind? There's not really much to be excited about. The younger players is cool, but in terms of as an overall project, it just feels like when he leaves, the manager, we might be able to get a bit more excited. When the owners go, we might be able to get more excited. But those things aren't going to happen. And I don't really want to talk about Arsenal anymore because they're just depressing me. So we're going to move on because we lost and we weren't really great. And looking at the other games, of course, the weekend, we had some really good standout performances. I think seeing Aston Villa come up, get a nice little 2-0 win against Newcastle. Newcastle, who would have been hoping for a better season this year than last. I think that's not the best start for them. I mean, what would you say, like looking at, I guess, those two teams? Those two teams. What would you say was like your kind of thoughts on that game?
For both of them, I find it bizarre because I think both those teams, could be aiming for a similar sort of thing because both of them finished in the bottom half of the table, but yet one has gone tooth and nail to try and show that they're moving in the right direction, even if it's not necessarily going for big time trophies, but just trying to show effort and ambition. Good result for Villa, getting their first win. I know I can't remember what it's called. I think it was El Ghazi who scored. Was it El Ghazi? I know Danny Ings scored a bicycle kick. I think Danny Ings is a great acquisition for them. I think did really well for Southampton. I know he was injury plagued last year, but
El Ghazi penalty.
It was an El Ghazi penalty, but again, and it's still got, and their strength and depth just shows. They haven't necessarily stacked up with stars, but they've stacked up with good players. That Jack Grealish money could still yet prove to be very, very helpful. But at least they're trying. They're trying. They're moving in the right direction, giving the fans good football, moving in a direction. We've come back from the Championship, 17th in the first year, 11th last year. Where are they going to finish this year? 8th, 9th, 7th? They got the squad there capable of doing it. And Dean Smith is actually quite a half-decent manager, which is, there's Newcastle. I've never said that Steve Bruce is a bad manager. I think he can get something decent out of Newcastle. But where's the ambition? Where's where you want to go to? I mean, I know we could talk about Mike Ashley, but we know he wants to sell up. But again, where else is it? And they've got I don't think they've got as good a team as Villa, but they're not a bad team. Wilson, Sam Maximan, Joe Linton, Dubravka is their keeper. He's a half decent keeper. Callum Wilson, Dwight Gale. They're not bad players, and I'm not even a fan of their team, but it just shows me like, how are you being left behind like this? And we're already 2-3 games in. I don't think they've even won yet. But it's a great victory. Again, it's a great victory for Villa. I think they played, I haven't seen many of the highlights yet, but I did say how many games. I think one of the first ones podcast we did said, give it how many games to see how we're going to get with this team. After a few games, I might start being like, I know we've just got Willokin, but is there anything else we need to do? Is there anything else we need to try? I don't know. But Villa looking like they're finally moving in the right direction. Long season ahead, cup competitions. Because we can do cup competitions. But yeah, good result for Villa. But Newcastle, could it be a case of the same old, same old? I hope not. I really do hope not. But yeah, got Newcastle, got to do better. Villa, I can see where you're trying to go with this one. Really can.
And for you, Craig, I guess my question similar to last week is what would you say was like your standout fixture this weekend in terms of the games that were played?
West Ham Leicester. West Ham Leicester.
Wow.
I feel that because I was watching the game, and the way West Ham have like as I said the first episode of the podcast, they just keep on getting better and better. Mikel Antonio just keeps on better and better every week. Hopefully this season, touch wood, he doesn't get injured, but he just keeps on scoring goals. Since he's been playing in the Premier League, he played wing back, left wing, striker. The guy is so versatile, plays so many multiple positions, but I think David Moyes and the club have found the best position for him on the pitch, and he's excelling in that position. He's scoring goals, getting assists, and when he scored his goal the other day, he was so happy. There's a passion in him scoring goals, and not only just scoring goals, it's the way how he wins. He reminds me of Ian Wright when Ian Wright used to score goals. He was so passionate. When he scored goals, he wanted the whole fans to celebrate with the fans. Yeah,
I think for me, what's really interesting with West Ham, I look at David Moyes came in and Moyes, because of what happened at Man United, he's got a lot of criticism behind him. His reputation took a massive hit. I think even with the West Ham fans, it's a bit like a bit marmitey with him when he first came in. It was a bit of that kind of, are we sure this is the right guy? And not quite. His football's not quite great, but he's always been a manager that's kind of prided himself on good, solid defensive base. What he's done since then, which is the most remarkable thing, is take that and added this attacking flair, where you've got players like Ben Rama, Fornals, Yarmolenko when he comes off the bench. I think he's a bench option now, but he comes on. You've got people like Jared Bowen, who's just got that hard-working, but yet the quality in his football is there. And of course, you've got Antonio up front. And then, of course, they've got Rice behind them who can kind of supply the passes. They've got a very interesting unit of players who play very exciting football. So for you, Matthew, looking at how he's put it all together, what would you say is like the most exciting thing, looking at West Ham from like I guess from a neutral perspective that you see within their team?
But they're actually delivering now on what I think the board promised when they first moved into this new stadium, because I know they're very sceptical about it, promising this and that and this, competing in Europe, high profile signings, victories against like all the bigger teams. I think for the first how many years they were there, it didn't happen. It didn't happen overnight. I think it took them about a good 5 years to where they're getting on to now, because we first start seeing this improvement back last year, because it wasn't that long ago they were in the wrong half of the table. I think they're now, because I think this is Moyes' second spell, and he's come back and they're now seeing like this was the guy we should have had in the first place. They had Pellegrini, he's a Premier League winner, didn't work. But with this guy here, it's working out, well, as you can see, beautifully at the moment. Then they're going to be one of the ones to watch. They're going to be ones to try and even, I think they are, Leicester still, and maybe Spurs. I'm controversial. Talk about hot takes right now. This is boiling, absolutely boiling. They could be one of the teams to see to get into the top four. I think they've got, like you said, it's an interesting team that know how to defend, but they've got those exciting players that can still go ahead and cause trouble. We haven't even got to the point of talking about Jesse Lingard yet and what holds for him, because what say does he have at Man United right now? Why not cut his losses? He's still at that age where he can still be very, very effective and wants to try and play for England again. Why not go back there? It doesn't need to be that difficult. Go back to where you were flying for, be the player that you were, but we all know that you are, and just to have an extra option at West Ham. Their project is starting to bear fruit now, and it's going really, really, really well for them. It just needs now to start producing. But if they can keep this form up, I mean, I'm not particularly looking forward to going there anytime soon. If they're gonna make it that difficult and hostile, they could be an issue. They could be a real problem. So, I mean, they took Leicester to the sword on Monday, and Leicester are no mugs. I know they had a man sent off, but you've still got to put that work in to get those extra goals. So, West Ham are going to be one of my ones to watch definitely for this season, just because of what they can be what they're capable of. But they really do seem like an exciting team and prospect right now. So we'll see how it goes.
No, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how it all pans out with them, because I think, like you said, that they are very, very exciting, and the project they've put together, it looks like it's starting to slowly bear fruit. I think Lingard should make the move and go there, because now that things are changing at Manchester United, I feel like that might be a smart move for them. Of course, their game that weekend, they drew 1-1. Away at Southampton. It was a very, very like a weird stop-starty game. I feel like they lacked a lot of creativity and a lot of edge, which is very unusual. I thought they could have done more. I feel they need to go up a gear. Just felt like they were just a bit flat compared to how they performed in the previous week. The opening day they looked really good, and this week they looked very, very kind of poor. Looking at that result, Craig, do you feel like, in as much as there's a lot of excitement around Manchester United, and we'll get into more of that in a bit, do you feel like that this inconsistency is something that they need to be very mindful of?
I feel like if they want to win the league, the games like against Southampton, no disrespect to Southampton, they have to win those games. If they want to win the league. Man United teams in the past were always, I know my Southampton and Man United's bogey team over the years, if you go through Premier League years in history, they've always had results against Southampton. Southampton always done well against United. But I always feel that if you want to win the Premier League, you have to win those games. Those type of games, you have to get 3 points. And I feel that they didn't look like they were going to win the game.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult thing, and it's a challenge. And I guess that they have such an explosive attack anyway. I think one of their weak areas is definitely central midfield, in that outside, and from a defensive point of view, and an overall balance. I think McTominay and Matic and Fred, they've got pros and cons to their games, but they're not. It's not a team where you look and you feel like there's no weaknesses that we can exploit. Central midfield definitely can exploit it. Right back, to an extent, maybe you could get a bit out of Wan-Bissaka, maybe, but definitely central midfield is the weak spot, and they should probably look into strengthening there. I guess for you, looking at how they performed as a rival in the title race, was that a game where you looked at and you thought, okay, maybe they're not going to be that big of a... I guess it's only one game, but there's a lot of patterns in how they were playing that you could think, okay, over the course of the season, this might be a side that we might not necessarily be overly worried about.
Well, first of all, it was nice to see a game that didn't see Pogba get too much of heat from this game. It was very nice to see. Second of all, Ollie needs to realise that they are going to touch your players. So try and keep them on their feet, and stop comparing football to rugby. This is football after all. Let's not forget this is a contact sport. It's not just your players that you can't touch.
It's true.
I couldn't believe that. That was just West Manchester United, so I can believe that. I think I want to try and give more credit. I want to give more credit to Southampton. Actually, I thought Southampton came in really dogged and stubborn, and you shall not pass in this game. They were leading for a very long time, and Greenwood in form obviously didn't get the memo, but obviously was quite a good strike. Mason Greenwood didn't you not hear? Did he not hear? But credit to him. He's in form. Good on them. They are still going to be up there in the title conversation. I'm convinced that they are, and we'll get more into more of that later. But there's always going to be that one odd few game that's going to be a bit of a stick in the mud. The next game they have, which I think is tomorrow, if they do this again tomorrow, I might have to rethink what I originally said. Because I always did say where the squad that Manchester United have, it's the depth that they have in every position. They have 5 goalkeepers, 5 of them, and 2 of them were mainstays in the Premier League. De Gea is a mainstay for them anyway, and Tom Heaton was a mainstay from them at Burnley. And he had a really bad injury spell at Aston Villa, and they've still got two other backups. In every position you look, they've got backup in some ways, so they're going to be fine. They've spent a lot of money. They should be competing, but it's always going to come down to that final component of the man upstairs, which is their manager. I'm not convinced he's going to be the one that's going to bring them masses and masses of glory they think they're entitled to. But I just thought Southampton were just had some sort of plan that's going to stop and frustrate them. Like you said, through that central midfield, there's room for him. There's always room for improvement. Matic, he's been there for a while. Fred, well, he passed the ball to. Only he knows who he passed the ball to when he kicks it off the line. Only he knows who he passed it to. It's almost as if, with Fred, he just has that moment of brilliance, but it's trumped by 4 moments of just Fred moments that just seem to just come by. If they don't get a result in the next game, or the result they should be in the next game, I might be like, is this gonna be a trend? But well done Southampton as well. I want to say well done Southampton. You did me a bit of a favour, so thanks for that.
No, it was definitely an interesting game to watch. Definitely one where Southampton did the job they needed to do, and Manchester United had to, a great bit of football. Pogba involved again. Really, really impressive him this season. I think he is. I say that. I feel like this year it's like he wants the numbers as well to back up the performances, like the goals and assist numbers. So I'm really happy that he's going on in that form. We can look at Crystal Palace, managed by former Arsenal captain Patrick Vieira. Interesting project that they've building there. They lost a lot of experience because we talked about that in the previous podcast and how it's going to be an adaptation period for them. They drew against Brentford in the game the weekend, or last weekend. So looking at that result, 0-0 at home, they had the fans back. It was a great atmosphere. I think even the Brentford manager was saying that they felt very unlucky with the result, but also just having the fans back was incredible. How do you think things are going to go for them now going forward?
Well, Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
I feel like once Vieira gets his philosophy down, what he wants from the team, and gets the players firing, I think they'll be okay.
Do you think he'll get the time to be able to do that? Because obviously they had Frank de Boer previously, and he lasted 5 games. They lost all of their games, I think, so that makes sense why they fired him. But he wasn't given the time to instill that philosophy into the game. Obviously, a 0-0 at home is not the worst result. People could say, well, it's Brentford, and they promoted, you should beat them. But as we know, Brentford are a very, very tricky team to play against. Definitely. They have a very good way of playing, very set way of playing, and they've just refined it in the season when they didn't get, like last season when they weren't able to make it up from the previous year. They used last season to refine their system and kind of take it to another level. So, yeah, I think it's tough. But yeah, you're right. I think the players coming in for Palace will help them. I think, are there any things that you'd say is it for a Palace fan is a positive now, looking at what Vieira might bring to the club and what the club want to do?
I think it's going to make them solid. It's going to make them hard to beat because they didn't lose against Brentford. I think they lost their first game, didn't they? I think it's going to make them solid to beat, and they're going to be like when they play them at home. Because Crystal Palace still got good players, even though they lost a lot of players in the summer. They still got some decent players at the club. They got Zaha, they got Benteke, so they got experience. They got Jordan Ayew, so they got experience, and they got some good young players as well. They got Colin Gallagher from Chelsea, and they got the other defender as well. Yeah,
they got
Anderson
and Eze as well.
Eze and Mikel Olise, who's currently injured. So that's 2 key young, exciting players to come back.
So and they got some decent players. So I don't think Crystal Palace fans should worry right now. I think once everything clicks together, they should be fine.
Okay. I think that's the key thing is that momentum and I think there's a lot of games matches that happen in the past weekend where you can just see that as teams who, like, you got Leeds 2-2 against Everton. That's a good result for them off the back of the opening weekend when they got smashed 5-1 Manchester United. For Everton, they obviously a draw. They won the previous week. So that's like 2-2 is not a bad result for both teams. I think they both have big ambitions for this season. I think Leeds would want to be in the top half, probably looking at, I don't know if they're aiming for Europe, but I think looking at it, at least, maybe like an 8th, 7th, 8th finish, then you can think, okay, which might be Europa Conference League, cheeky little Conference League run, see how that goes. And maybe you think, okay, we can establish ourselves in the top 8 and then push on the next season. Everton, they're always looking to get back into Europe again and make that kind of jump. So I think for those 2 teams, it's going to be an interesting season in terms of how they recover. And they've both got managers who have an incredible history, an incredible philosophy in how they want to play. Benitez at Everton, which Liverpool fans may not be happy with, but it's just football. Things happen. And of course, the great Bielsa at Leeds, he's just, the city adore him, the players adore him, and they've got something really exciting. And talking about being adored, talking about someone being back in a city that they know well, talking about rivalries. We've had a summer of unprecedented movement.
Madness.
No one saw Paris Saint-Germain collecting world-class players, maybe towards the end of their prime, like Thanos was collecting Infinity Stones. And we had the most an incredible transfer situation that we've seen in a long time. And of course, it's the return of the one and only Cristiano Ronaldo back to Manchester United. Matthew, like, when you heard the news, I mean, when you heard the news that he was coming back to England, first and foremost, how did that make you feel? And what did that make you think in relation to how it's gonna impact the title race going forward?
I didn't believe it. I did not believe it. I didn't think he'd ever want to go to City because of his allegiances to Manchester United. I would thought he would have gone somewhere. It seems mad, but the only other place I think he could have gone would have been PSG. And just answering that age-old question, what would it have been like to have Ronaldo and Messi in the same team? Every FIFA football manager stands questions answered in real life would have shaken the ground to its absolute core. Obviously, we didn't get that. My partner actually showed me, announced it, and I didn't believe it at first because I was thinking, because Man United weren't on the radar for him, and City weren't really. I mean, I know they lost out on Harry Kane because he's pledged his loyalty to Spurs. So okay, we're not going to fill that hole, but Ronaldo, really? It wasn't until I saw the shirt I'm thinking, let me check Wikipedia, let me check Google, let me check Twitter, let me check everywhere, let me cover my absolute basis. It wasn't until I turned on to Sky Sports and I thought, right, big yellow banner on the side, everywhere. I mean, as someone spiked my drink, as someone hoaxed on Sky, is someone at Sky TV playing me for long? It's not April Fool's, is it? No, it's not. It took me a while to kind of recant and go back to him coming in and seeing all that with the shirt, the number, the ball, and all this other stuff. Seeing him in that red jersey again. What this means for the title race, I don't think it changes that much. He's still very clearly a very effective player. I would personally have him over Ronaldo anyway for my own personal reasons. But despite the fact that Messi is just that good, I think he's there for something. It's not calling it desperation, but it's something else. I think he's come back a better player than when he left. All the trophies he's won internationally, with club level, he's a recognized, never mind a brand, but he's just a recognized icon of the sport, as Messi is. He's a leader. He commands respect. He's a born and proven winner. He keeps on striving. He gets knocked out after winning how many Champions Leagues? Gets knocked out of this round of 16. He's crying. He's in tears. He wants to win and win and win and win. And truth be told, I don't think Man United were ever really the same once he left, because I think he got better as he went to Real Madrid. I think he's back there for something else. He's 36. I think he's there to kind of, I don't know, it's almost as if they let go of Ronaldo just to sign Ronaldo again. They're very good, only replace him with him. I think he's there to kind of be a presence in that dressing room. When you think of presences in that Man United dressing room, there aren't a lot, but if there's one person you're going to listen to in that room, it is going to be him. No matter how you feel, rivals or regardless, you want to listen to what he has to say. He's been around. He has that experience. He's won on so many stages. He's has it in his... He has team accolades, personal accolades, international accolades. You'd be a fool not to listen to this man. So while I don't necessarily think he's going to be a massive goal merchant, I think he will score. I think he's there to kind of remind Manchester United of what they were and what they can be. Getting them back, getting them back to again where they feel like they should be, on that highest plane. That's what I think he's there for. I don't see him as the long-term project. It's a saying I heard once on YouTube where you can't expect a different result from reading the same chapter over and over again. I.e., you haven't moved on from it yet. That's why I think he's there. I think there's more to this move than we know.
And for you, Craig, like looking at the news and looking at this move and stuff, do you feel like, why do you think he's done it?
He's got unfinished business. I think he's there. Yeah, he's got unfinished business. His first spell, he was amazing. He was a boy. He grew from a boy to a man. There, he left United. When he left United, he won the Ballon d'Or, and then he went to Real Madrid, as Matthew said, and he's won Champions Leagues. I feel him going there is going to help the young players like Greenwood, Rashford, and Sancho. All the young players are going to learn from him. They're going to bring the winning mentality. He's gonna the way how he trains, the way how he eats, the way how he sleeps, the way how he does prepare for matches. His professionalism. You don't see him going to a nightclub or anything like that. He's going to show these young players what it is to be a top elite player. Him and Messi have been elite players for a long time, and they wouldn't be elite players for a long time if it wasn't for hard work, sacrifice, dedication, and working on their craft. I heard that when Ronaldo was at Man United, when the first time, every time after training, he would stay back for a couple of hours, work on his shooting, work on his heading, work on everything on his game, worked in the gym, and he became a physical specimen. And not only that, he just knows he's a winner. And United, and I think, to be honest with you, I think United have lacked having winners in their team for a long time. That type of winner that's going to take them to the next level. Last season they got to the Europa League final, they didn't win. I think this season they got him. They got more of a chance of winning now than they had before. I feel.
I think that's a good observation to make, and I think that's for them anyway. You know, because they haven't won trophies for a couple of years. They don't talk about it much because they feel like they can hide. You ain't won stuff in a while. I mean, Arsenal have problems, but at least we win trophies. You guys ain't won for a while, so maybe you might want to look at your own back garden before worrying about us. Although we are crap right now, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Does this, Matthew, put them right in the mix of because I feel like they were in the mix of the conversation anyway because of the deals they got, bringing in Varane, bringing in Sancho. I feel like that put them in that conversation of being one of the challengers for the title, or at least to be there and thereabouts. Does this push them beyond that point to make them one of the favourites now to win the league?
This changes nothing because the money they spent before should have put them there in the first place. I think this almost feels like it's, again, I said before, it's a feeling of desperation, which I don't quite think that it is. I just think it's almost as if PSG are going to try it, it could work. You know, it might work for us as well. We're going for an elite winner as well. Why not try the same? Maybe they didn't pay that much money for him, and his age proves nothing. This guy's going to be playing until he's 40 years old. Zlatan's doing it. So why can't he? And, you know, like Craig said, he's an absolute specimen. He keeps himself in check. Extra practice, more. He's his own words telling me questioning every single time, and you see him barking orders to his team. Why wouldn't you want? Why wouldn't you want that? I just think that since he has left from the Premier League, which is a good 14 years ago now, it's changed so much.
That's true.
It's changed so much. No disrespect to the Italian and the Spanish leagues. They're clearly still very tough leagues to compete in and to win. But the Premier League in itself is a different creature. How is he going to cope? I mean, he'll be fine. He'll slot into that team every day anyway. But, you know, the league has changed since then. It's quicker. It's stronger. The rules have changed. You know, there are players around. You know, the kind of clubs you'll be going to later. We're coming close to the winter. Going back to all those cold places again, up in Yorkshire, like in Leeds and Burnley. The question we always wondered, he's hacking it all over again. He's going to find it a lot tougher than what it was before, just because you have who you are, that people are going to know who you are. And even the managers now, you're seeing managers like Bielsa at Leeds Benitez at Everton, Hasenhüttl at Southampton. Ideas have clearly travelled around coming up to these smaller clubs. You're not going to have it all your own way, I don't think. I think people are going to wise up and try something. He's clearly going to be still very, very effective, but I think he's going to find it tough, really, really tough here and now on. The smaller teams do have a go way, way more often. As for their league title position, league title aspirations, I don't think it changes anything. I don't think this does not put them ahead of everyone else, if that's what you mean. I still think they're roughly where they are in a way. So yeah, it's the same for me. It's the same.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see like how things pan out. I mean, I think it's a very interesting piece of business for them. I still feel like they need to do something in central midfield before I would probably put them in the as one of the favourites to do it. I think Liverpool are really well stacked. Man City, they'll just keep rolling over and keep rolling on. And then of course Chelsea have done some very good business. So those are my three that are going to be the ones to really watch: City, Chelsea, Liverpool. And then you've got Man United, who now might feel like they might be in the conversation, because again, at the end of the day, goals is what makes a big difference. You score goals, you win matches, that counts a lot. I guess to kind of wrap up this episode, looking at the fact we've got a couple of days left in the transfer window, there's still lots of deals to be done. This is a massive deal. It's a big deal for the league. It's a big deal for him personally. It's a big deal for Manchester United. Starting with you, Craig, and let's go through the league. Let's go through the league, and do like who or all right. Let's start off at home. Let's start with Arsenal. Couple days left, outside of sacking the manager, which is I'm not ruling that out. What do you think Arsenal need to do in what's left of the window to I don't want to say to salvage the season, because that feels really premature, but it really feels like we might be at that point. What do Arsenal need to do now to turn things around?
We need 3 or 4 players.
What positions would you want, and if you've got any names that you suggest that they should go get?
Definitely the striker. That's number one. Scoring goals. Who's available? That's the problem.
They're out there.
They're out there, but then have we got money to buy them? We'd have to sell before we buy.
Well, I don't know. Say, well, I mean, our owners are rich, so in theory, we should be able to buy before we buy, or buy before we sell.
What striker shot? The way how we play, someone like a Calvert-Lewin, the way how we play would fit the way how we're doing. Because I know Arteta's seen too once we buy a lot of English players, and the way we put the ball in the box, I think like Tierney crosses, like he would benefit from our crosses.
Okay,
but definitely another centre mid, because we can't depend on Jack. I think Basuma would be a good signing for us, 100%.
Yeah,
I'd love to have him and Partey in that midfield. Right back, definitely need another right back because.
Yeah, we just don't have a starting right back.
We don't have a star right back. Like Arsenal always had good right backs, from Lee Dixon to Bakary Sagna. Abue was quite good for a little while. We always had good right backs. We haven't had a good right back for since Bellerin had a serious injury. So
I think the big issue with right back as well is you got someone like Maitland-Niles who the position seems to be like tailor made for him, but he doesn't want it for whatever reason. He thinks he's a midfielder. It reminds me of Theo Walcott when he was demanding to be up front as a striker. And he got the opportunity, and he just, because of the other areas of his game that weren't well refined, because he had good movement, he's a good finisher. I know he had some inconsistent periods, but overall he was a good finisher, and he had the pace. But the problem is he didn't have hold-up play, and when we shifted to the one up front, you need to have a bit more than just that, because our team wasn't catered to play the way he wanted to play. And even then, he wasn't really making the runs to justify being up front either way. Yeah. He should have stayed on the right wing. So it's one of those things where you got to play where you know best. And actually, I read a story about Reece James. He started off as a striker, then got moved into midfield, I think right midfield.
Right midfield,
and then went into right back, hated it for a couple of years, but then realised, actually, I like it. This is where I'm going to get minutes. I'm going to play. And he's made it his own, and now look at him. He's flourishing.
And you still got...
He plays centre mid as well, because he went on loan to Wigan a couple of seasons ago, and he plays centre mid, and he was their player of the season. Yeah. I remember that season.
And he can still shoot.
So sometimes you got to be flexible as a player. Yeah. So I guess for you, Matthew, Chelsea, do you do you expect any more business? Is there anyone you'd like to see you guys bring in, or would you say you're pretty happy with your squad?
I think it's be a case of more people outgoing because we've got a lot of players on. We always our backlog catalog of players is absolutely massive. So I think it's kind of sorting out players to get them on to move them into different clubs because these are players here that deserve time and that can play and who in previous clubs, I'm not saying that Chelsea's a curse, but maybe it just hasn't worked out, but do deserve to be playing. So Zappacosta's recently gone, so good on him. Bakayoko is looking like he's on his way out as well. I felt Danny Drinkwater, who was a Premier League winner, it never materialised. It was nice to see him go somewhere as well. Bringing someone in, well, we have that young defender from Sevilla, I think Koundé. We're trying to get that through across the line before deadline day. On the other hand, with Zuma going the other way, I would be sad to see Zuma go because I just think especially in the Frank Lampard, I think he had given so many chances, and he's clearly a very good defender, goal scorer, big, strong guy. He's still in his 20s, so as centre backs go, his experience is going to take that to an age where he can keep on going for a little bit longer. Thiago Silva's 36 and he's still on our bench. It'll be a shame to see him go, but if he's not part of Tuchel's plans, just make that very clear. I mean, and he's going to West Ham as well, already a strong defensive unit, which is going to be quite an acquisition. Going to look forward to playing with him. Koundé, I want to try and see that over the line. I'm very content with the team right now. I think if we keep on getting any more, it's just spending unnecessary money and just having a player for the sake of having a player. I think our strength in depth in pretty much every position is very, very strong. Because if you sometimes look at our bench over the last how many games, he's thinking of the players that aren't starting. Kante didn't start last week.
That's true.
Chilwell hasn't been starting the last couple of games. Hudson-Odoi hasn't been starting. Ziyech didn't start against. He didn't start last week either against Arsenal. Werner didn't start. So we don't need to get any more players. If anything, we need to trim a little bit anyway. Send some more out on loan. I don't think we need to. It'll be greedy to kind of have more players in. I mean, our front line, our two strikers cost nearly £200 million alone. So I think we need to start trimming to make space for eventually in the future when we do need to, replace someone. So I want to see those outgoings done as soon as possible, but I want to see them at clubs because these players deserve to go to somewhere good. They really do.
And of course, we mentioned that with the Ronaldo deal that City were in talks with him. Of course, that fell apart really quickly, as you'd expect, being a Manchester United legend. So for you, Craig, do you think that City... Because I feel like City will probably try again for Kane, in as much as he said he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Money talks, and Levy has a price. What that number is, we don't know, but he has a price. Do you think Man City would try again with the window coming to a shut to try and get him, or is there another striker in world football you think they would have a go at going for?
Well, Mbappe could be one, but he wants to go to Madrid. But it could happen if Man City offered him money that PSG want, he could go to Man City.
That would be interesting because I hadn't thought about Mbappe as an option as a striker to move. Obviously, Erling Haaland would be the one they would love to have. I know Chelsea were linked to him at one point, but you made the right choice for Lukaku because it's like for now, and Haaland is just doing.
He scored yesterday.
The goal scoring numbers are just getting more and more ridiculous. The guy is an absolute freak of nature, but. He is the one that you'd want to invest in. So he could be an interesting one to see. Although I think Dortmund are very clear on their transfer business. He's not going anywhere for a year, at least. So that does leave them with limited options. It's a good call, Mbappe. I think Kane they might try again. I'm not sure who else they would go for. Looking around the league, maybe they might try and poach Aubameyang. Maybe
Lewandowski, because Lewandowski did say the other day he wants a new challenge.
True.
And Pep has worked with him before.
That's an interesting one.
I know he's like, how old is he now? 32, but he's still scoring goals on a regular basis.
So is Suarez.
So is
Vardy.
So so it doesn't matter. Age is nothing but a number, as they say. But if you can consistently score goals in this level.
He's 33 now, but 33 now. But he looks after himself really well. He's in very good nick, so I wouldn't see him falling apart from a health perspective. And of course, he would want to try himself in another league. So maybe that could be the talk. I mean, there is paper talk that Man City should make a bid for him.
But to be honest with you, I don't know if they really need one though, because the way they're scoring goals at the moment, I don't think they really need a striker. But it depends. because last season the Champions League final they didn't play with a striker and it cost them, and they never played with a
midfielder
with a holding mid and it cost them. So I think if they want to go the extra to win the Champions League, they have to have a top class striker. So I said Mbappe, Kane, Lewandowski. Haaland's not going to happen until maybe next summer. So there's limited options out there for strikers at the moment because all the teams have already started the season, and I don't think they will let any of their players go towards the end of the window because there'll be less time for them to replace their players.
Yeah, unless you want to go for like a developmental option and get someone younger. But they've already got 2 young strikers in Ferran Torres and Gabriel Jesus. So it's not, you don't really want to do that twice. So yeah, I think that those names are a good shout, especially for what they should go for.
Definitely.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how things pan out. Obviously, this weekend we've got some games going on, but we will discuss them in our next podcast. And then the podcast after that, we're going to do something very different, very interesting, very exciting. We're going to look back at some of the golden era. It'll be International Week. So rather than us focusing purely on what England are going to do, we'll touch on them a little bit. We're going to focus on the golden era of football, taking us back to the time when being an Arsenal fan was a moment of pride rather than something that shows that you're very patient and faithful. We're gonna kind of unpack a few different managerial footballing philosophies. We're going to talk about the Mourinho era at Chelsea. Of course, we're going to talk about the Wenger era and, of course, Wenger ball. And we're going to talk about Ferguson and, of course, the football that he put together. And just kind of discuss, like, how those things have gone and stuff. But, guys, it's been a pleasure. As always, this is it for this week. To give you a preview to next week's podcast, Arsenal lost. Arteta should be fired by the time you hear next week's podcast, but he won't be. So if you see me on TV with a banner, just face front. Don't say nothing. Don't worry about it. Doing the Lord's work. I'll get him out. I'm just playing. But in all seriousness, I feel like there is a serious discussion to be had about where Arsenal go next. Looking at what Chelsea do really well and whether that's a model that should be adapted. And also, there's been some talk of the Qataris looking at potentially buying the club. So that's going to be very interesting. But we will discuss that and more in next week's episode. All right, guys. Have a great rest of the week. See ya.
Peace.
Hey.